I want to play this recording for you of President Trump that just came out, and I'm sure you've seen it, and there's a response from the president as well. If you want to play this, this is what everybody, CNN, everyone's playing, saying this is it. It's the end of it. After this, he shouldn't be qualified to run. If you want to go ahead and play this, and then we'll show his response.
Bad, sick people.
That was your coup, against you.
Well, it started right at the
like
beginning.
when Milley's talking about, you were going to try to do a coup. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in.
That's right.
Trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look. This was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him.
Wow.
We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff.
Who's recording
Pages
this,
long.
Rob? Keep playing it. Keep playing it.
Wait a minute. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I just found. Isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. But look at this. You attack, and
Hillary would print that out all the time,
she'd send
Private
it.
email.
No, she'd send it to Anthony Weiner, the pervert.
Please print.
By the way, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just saying because we were talking about it, and he said he wanted to attack Iran and what. These are the
You
papers.
did. It's pretty
This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably, right?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify.
figure out
it. See, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, but this is classified.
now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so. Here and I have.
Can you pause this, Rob? So who's recording this?
According to CNN, the audio recording comes from a July 2021 interview Trump gave at his Bedminster resort for people working on a memoir for Mark Meadows, Trump's former chief of staff.
Okay, so go to his. Who's that lady? Who is that lady? Is that one of his staffers?
It says here in the article that the people present, a writer, publisher, and 2 of Trump's staff members.
2 of Trump's staff members.
Yes. Okay,
so now go to Trump's response on what he says about this on Truth Social. So the deranged special prosecutor Jack Smith, working in conjunction with the DOJ and FBI, illegally leaked and spun a tape and transcript of me, which is actually an exoneration rather than what they would have you believe. This continuing witch hunt is another election interference scam. They are cheaters and thugs. So when you see this recording and you see, him talking about Milley and where he's at and Hillary and all this other stuff, how do you process this when you see this recording that the media is using to make sure he can no longer compete for 2024?
Well, the first thing that I think is that President Trump is not unlike most of his predecessors in that many of the papers that they took with them when they left office were not necessarily carefully vetted, registered, declassified, whatever. I think we've, over the years, become very relaxed in that area. Secondly, I think we classify too much. That's certainly true. And it's unfortunate that they're trying very, very hard to pin some sort of criminal action on him, which is, of course, absurd. Now, his point is effectively true. Milley and others came across, along with Bolton and, as I recollect, the former Secretary of State, who was Pompeo, who said he wanted to run for president and bowed out. They were all advocates for war with Iran. And you have to look at least with Bolton and Pompeo, who their quote-unquote donors are, where their money comes from. They wanted war with Iran. Milley, I'm not sure he was a strong advocate for it. I have no idea, but he certainly wasn't going to stand in the way. We know that McKenzie, who was down in U.S. Central Command, apparently his fingerprints are all over this Global Hawk unmanned aerial vehicle that was shot down. It was plotted to follow the edge of the Air Defense Identification Zone, which under international law says that any military aircraft that violates that zone is liable to be shot down unless it identifies itself, explains its position, and so forth. Of course, we didn't do that. So in a court of law, the Iranians, international law, would have won the case. At the time, no one could say, what happens if we go to war with Iran? The idea was we got to go to war with Iran. It was similar to the Wolfowitz, Rumsfeld, Cheney cabal that took us into Iraq. The purpose is to get us into Iraq. Then we'll figure it out. Very similar to things that were said in 1965 and 66 about Vietnam. Well, what are we going to do there? We got to get in there. Let's get in there. We'll sort through that. We'll, quote unquote, muddle through. You never muddle through. You have to know what the purpose is. You have to know how you're going to achieve that purpose, and then you have to have a vision for what you want it to look like at the end. We call that purpose, method, end state. Donald Trump, as president of the United States, prevented war with Iran because he asked, first of all, what happens after we launch all of these strikes? What happens? Now, he said at the time, I was concerned about the loss of human life in Iran, which is legitimate, especially since we did not lose any human life. What we did is we lost an unmanned aerial vehicle, which he did not think rose to the threshold that justified war with Iran. And of course, he was right. But it was also a question of, okay, we launch all these strikes, then what? And you have a lot of people in Washington that just want to start something and then convince themselves they can drag us in and that somehow or another the military will make it work. That happened to us in Vietnam. It happened to us in Iraq. It happened to us in Afghanistan. It happened to us in Libya. It's happening right now in an attempt to bring us into some sort of confrontation with the Russians over Ukraine. And there's no serious thinking about what are the implications. Iran is an enormous country. It's almost the size of Western Europe. It has a large population. Let's assume that you can destroy Iran. All right, let's just assume you can destroy it with enough weapons. They can't stand up to us with their air defense networks or anything else.
Okay.
So let's assume you're right. We destroy them. What do these people do? Well, they leave. They begin to pour into surrounding countries because there's nothing for them to eat. There's no water to drink. If you destroy Iran, what's the impact strategically on the region? Is there anybody there who benefits from it? Well, a lot of people seem to think the Turks would. Mr. Erdogan would then emerge as the preeminent power in the region because Iran's really his principal rival.
Interesting, yeah.
So why would you do that? Does that make sense? Doesn't make a lot of sense. These are the discussions the British and American general staffs behind the scenes had during World War II. You want us to destroy Germany. Then what? Who supplants Germany? The Soviet Union. Is that our goal? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I'm following.
Trump did a good thing. He said, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to support it. And, of course, donors everywhere were very unhappy because they donated prolifically to that administration in the hopes of bringing on a war with Iran. Remember, I think it was Podhoretz who said every morning I get up and pray that we go to war with Iran. And he was advising John McCain, and McCain was an advocate for going to war with Iran. McCain was in Kiev saying, we'll fight the Russians, we'll stand by you. This is before he passed away. I mean, this is lunacy. What is happening? Who is in charge? The American people don't know what war means. I've seen a country devastated by war. I've seen more than one. They don't understand that we are no longer in a position of splendid isolation where we can destroy other people's homes without risking the same here. When you start dealing with the Russians and the Chinese, all sorts of potentially bad things can happen. If you think Mexico is our friend, I've news for you. The Mexicans have always sided with whomever was against the United States. So is Venezuela and so is Cuba. Now, you really want to go to war with these people and then have a second front in the Caribbean, in Latin America? Do you want to be dragged into that? No one is thinking. There is no strategic thought. And no one is thinking about the American people. What's in the interest of the American people? You know what's in the interest of the American people? Build prosperity. Recover this economy. Repatriate jobs. Get control of the border. stop the influx of labor that we can't employ. And if we believe the AI fanatics who are telling us that by 2040 or something, 80% of all the current low-skilled jobs will be replaced by AI, what are we bringing most of these people in to do? It's insane. Doesn't make any sense. So who's thinking about the United States, American society? Nobody.
Do you think this can be used to eliminate him as a candidate, or it still doesn't do anything? Like they're using everything possible to eliminate him. Do you think, yesterday I tweeted something, Rob, if you can go to Twitter, this is just something I tweeted yesterday, and it got some people that were, some were upset, some were curious, and some were like, why the hell would you even put this out there? So go in and zoom in right there, that one right there, if we can make it bigger. Okay, 2024 strategy to have Newsom replace Biden. Okay, step number 1, have Newsom go around defending Biden, selling Biden's record, shows loyalty. Step number 2, have him constantly attack DeSantis. Dems are convinced Trump will be forced to drop out. Step number 3, if Biden doesn't step down, have mainstream media attack him. It's already happening. ABC, CBS, NBC all went after him starting this week. Step number 4, once Jill Biden notices these endless attacks, have a private meeting with Biden, sharing strategy to save face if he steps down. Step number 1, multiple documentaries showing him as a modern-day FDR. Number 2, massive Simon & Schuster book deal. 3, defend his legacy and be pardoned by Newsom if shit hits the fan. Next one, choose one of few options to step down. Number 1, do to help. Number 2, Jill and I prayed about it and decided it's time for us to go spend time with our grandkids. Number 3, we fix everything Trump broke and now it's time for someone else to do it. Number 4, edify Newsom as being loyal to Biden, unlike DeSantis not being loyal to Trump. So then, in order to prevent Kamala from backstabbing, let her become the first female president for a split second when Biden steps down. Hillary will lose her mind, but what's new? And number 7, divide DeSantis and Trump camp to make sure MAGA doesn't vote for DeSantis. Step number 8, that says Newsom becomes 47, but I should have said 48. And last but not least, it's very likely none of the above will happen, which is why it's called a prediction, but only the paranoid survive. So do you think do you think Trump's going to be there next year as a Republican candidate?
Well, first of all, Only the Paranoid Survive is one of the best books I've ever read.
Andy Grove. He recommended it to me.
And if you want to understand what's wrong with the military establishment, all you have to do is read what he describes in there with IBM and all these other major corporations. It's a brilliant book. I try to get everybody to read it. Now, secondly, first of all, I think it's brilliant. And I think that if we were living in a linear world, in other words, where one event follows the next logically, you're absolutely right. I don't think we'll ever get to the 2024 election. I think things are going to implode in Washington before then. I think our economic financial condition is fragile. It's going to come home to roost in ugly ways. I will tell you, I don't know exactly how it will happen. I think we're going to end up in a situation where we find out the banks are closed for 2 or 3 weeks and nobody can get into them.
You think so?
I think we're going to run into something like that, yeah. I also think that the levels of violence and criminality in our cities is so high that it's going to spill over into other places in society. People that normally think they can live remote from the problem are now beginning to be touched by the problem. Then I look at this thing in Ukraine. I think Ukraine is going to lose catastrophically. It's going to be a complete collapse. And that, too, is going to have an effect here at home because people are going to say, well, wait a minute. Everybody told us Ukraine was winning. Everybody told us X, Y, and Z. I mean, it's sort of the Russian hoax on steroids. All of those things are going to come together or converge in some way that's going to prevent us from reaching, the status quo. Oh, another election. Oh, another set of campaigns and so forth. So what you're saying to me is eminently plausible because I don't think Biden will make it through the year. I think he'll be gone. And I think everybody knows that this person, Kamala Harris, lacks the ability under any circumstances to be president of the United States.
When you say gone, you mean passing away because of his age or merely being incapable and finally being, what is that? What do they call it? 25th Amendment or whatever it is?
Shuffled off the stage. I think
they'll save face, though. They'll do it in a way to save face.
Exactly. I think
that's
what
you're speaking of, right?
Yeah. I think what Patrick wrote is accurate. Something like that will happen. And then the search begins, and Newsom is the logical candidate for them. He's presiding over California, which is their poster child for the future of America. If you want to know what the Democrats want America to become, look at California. How deeply in debt is California? What's the state of affairs in that country of its own. It's a catastrophe. Everyone who can leave that has any talent, ability, or understanding is leaving. Businesses are leaving. No one wants to be there. So what are you going to end up with? A very small minority of very wealthy people and millions of poor people, most of whom don't even consider themselves to be Americans. So that's the dream world for the left, California.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll tolerate that. So I don't think it'll ever get that far on the national level. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't think we're that complacent. I also know that you get revolutionary change when people can't eat, when the supply chains break down and you can't deliver food, when they can't afford to buy the food, when they can't afford to buy the gasoline. These things are the catalysts for real change. And everyone's betting that the left in charge in Washington can keep all of this going without any interruption. Maybe they're right. I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that the gloom and, what is it? The
Gloom and doom?
gloom and doom, the chances of that for me, it's less than 5%. Again, my opinion. We can have a friendly
I don't
conversation.
see that as gloom and doom. I see that as our savior.
Fine. By the way, but here's the challenge. I actually agree with the fact that if they would have allowed Powell to do his job as the Fed chair to increase interest rates and the rate to decrease inflation, we would have gone through a transition phase where people would have realized, hey, man, this whole fake success we had the last 128, 129-month economic expansion is done. But we realized, everybody, including us, that we thought Jerome Powell was one of the most powerful men in America or the world. He's not. Congress is. Congress came out and said, no, here's print some money, send it into the economy. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about it, guys. We'll show more fake success to the economy. Holy shit. These stocks are back up. These guys are doing back again based on the 7 stocks that's coming back up. You know what? It's not going to happen. So he's preventing that. It's like a delay in the time bomb. We're eventually going to go through. It could be 5, 10, 15. Someone has to eventually go through with the right policies. But whoever does, they're not going to get reelected. So you almost have to have more fake success to get reelected. It's terrible for America. It's not a good thing, but it's the structure that we've created.
Happy 4th of July to you. We have a special event that's coming up with Tom Brady, Mike Tyson, and Will Guidara in Miami, Vault Conference. It'll be August 30th to September 2nd. This weekend for 4th of July, we're running a special. Buy one, get one free. Bring your spouse, bring your business partner, bring your running mate. If you haven't yet registered, click on a link below or above. Get registered. Looking forward to spending 3 days with you in Miami.